Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to Post Cologne. Today I'm going to be talking about 10 of my blind buy fragrances, the winners and the losers. So let's jump into it. All right, so today's video is a tag video and my boy Paragon Fragrance tagged me to do this challenge. Link to his channel will be down in the description. Go check him out, go subscribe, tell him Post Cologne sent you. He challenged me to come up with 5 blind buys I've done that are winners and 5 blind buys I've done that are losers. And so that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna look at some of the blind buy purchases that I've come across and ones that I really enjoy and other ones that I really don't enjoy. Now, I'm just gonna say, just because I like these blind buy fragrances and I say they're winners, does not mean they are blind buy worthy fragrances. They might not be winners for you. I'm not saying that they're blind buy worthy. And the losers in this one, I'm not saying they're bad fragrances. And if you enjoy these fragrances, I got a couple hot takes in this video and you might not enjoy, you might get mad at me about it, but I just don't like them. I'm not telling you you're a bad person because I don't like these fragrances. Well, maybe 1 or 2 of them. If you like those ones, you might be a bad person. But overall, don't get salty in the comments. This is just my personal opinion. So let's quit screwing around. Let's get into it. Kicking things off, we're gonna go to the house of Maison Alhambra, and it's Maison Alhambra's Tabac. Now, like most, if not all, in fact all the Middle Eastern fragrances in my collection, I didn't have a chance to get my nose on it before I bought it, and so this was obviously a blind buy, and let me tell you, I was pleasantly surprised when I got this one. One of my favorite honey tobacco fragrances in my collection because it has this added peach note in there that just is absolutely delicious. Really nice tobacco accord in this. It has that dried tobacco leaf with a little bit of the tobacco flower that's kind of worked in there. So there's a little bit of softness that's there, just drizzled in this warm, thick, luxurious style of honey. And this peach accord that comes through, and this peach has this almost kind of dried fruit accord to it. So it has that sweetness, but it's not overly sugary sweet. It just blends in really nice with that honey and that tobacco. And there's a little bit of amber in this too, which gives it a lot more warmth. So it kind of warms up that honey, warms up that fruit accord, adds a little bit of a subtle powderiness to it, a little bit of a dryness to it. Absolutely gorgeous fragrance. I love wearing this one. Great for the cool weather. Performance on this is fantastic. I get 10+ hours off my skin, no problem. And it does project really good for the first 2-3 hours. One of my favorite blind buys, one of my favorite pickups from the Maison Alhambra line. Just an absolutely fantastic tobacco honey fragrance. Definitely worth checking out. Maison Alhambra's Tabac. All right, so we're moving on to one of the losers, and this is going to be a bit of a hot take for people. This might upset a few of you, but I just really don't like this fragrance, and it was a blind buy from a rack store, and that's Versace The Dreamer. I just can't with this one. I really wanted to like this one. There is like a bit of an old school sort of vibe going on to this. I can sort of see how people would like this, but for me, off my skin, I just didn't like it. It has this green aromatic soapiness that comes through, and on the surface that sounds nice, but there's this almost bitter floral that comes through, this very off-putting tobacco notes that's in there. Some people say they absolutely love the tobacco note in this. I just don't. It has this kind of joint pain, like A535 medicinal rub that you put on your skin kind of feel to it. The bitter florals that come through for me just aren't doing it. And it just has that white bar of soap kind of cleanness to it, which again, just doesn't do it for me. It has a very dated smell to me, and I just don't like it. So for me, this was pretty much a scrubber as soon as I tried this on. I wore this maybe 3 or 4 times, really trying to kind of force myself to just experience it a little bit more, but every time I did it, I just had to scrub it off. Just really don't enjoy it. And it was a regret when I blind bought this. So again, I know this is a hot take and a lot of people like this fragrance, but it wasn't for me. That's Versace The Dreamer. Moving right along, we're gonna do a couple from Lattafa, both a winner and a loser. I know there's actually a fragrance from Lattafa that I don't enjoy, but there is one that I really, really enjoy, and it's a recent pickup, and it might be one of my new summer fragrances, and that's Lattafa Pride's Qaim Silver. Now you can pick this bad boy up for about $44 at various discounters, and this is just a beautiful, beautiful fragrance. It's a clone of Bulgaria's Tiger. It's just this grapefruit ginger note that's up top with some nice sweet ambroxan. A little bit of sandalwood, vetiver, and musk that's mixed in there. It has this effervescence to it from that ginger, really nice, bright, sparkling style of citrus mixing with that ambroxan and that little bit of woods that comes through. Just a beautiful, sweet citrus style of fragrance, but it has that masculine base with that vetiver and that little bit of sandalwood that works its way through, a little bit of musk as well. Just very bright, energizing, invigorating, refreshing style of fragrance, and I absolutely love this one. I know people are already typing in the comments right now which one I like better, this or Afnan's Tarathi Blue. I like them both. Personally, I like this one the best. I've done a video comparing the two. If you're looking for a buyer's guide, go look at my channel. I have a comparison between those two fragrances. I get a lot of compliments from Afnan's Tarothi Blue. This one, not as many, but just personally, I just really enjoy this fragrance, and it's one of my favorite blind buy fragrances. Absolutely beautiful scent profile, definitely worth checking out. That's Lattafa Pride's Qaim Silver. All right, so staying in the house of Lattafa, we got ourselves a blind buy loser in my books, and that's Lattafa's Nausea Tribute. Now, I really like the OG Nausea, and I actually enjoy an Oud Nausea as well. I think they're both really nice fragrances. The Oud Nausea is a little bit simple, but it's still a very enjoyable fragrance, so I figured a Tribute would be somewhere in that neighborhood. And it was not, and I don't like this fragrance whatsoever. It's a weird mishmash of notes that just don't seem to work together off my skin, at least. It's got the citruses, this apple that works up top, just some sweet accords and some citruses that try and play with some saffron, some like dark smoky leather, some oud, some gaiac wood, all sorts of different notes kind of all trying to play together, and no one's playing nice. It just does not work. It has a very funky animalic vibe going on to it. The oud is very funky as it comes across, almost a little bit dark medicinal sort of feel to it. The leather that plays in this, it clashes with those sweet notes and the citruses, and they don't play together nice. It just doesn't work. All these notes together, it's just a funky, dark, weird, sweet style of smoky leather. I'm not even a good smoky leather. Don't care for this fragrance. It just didn't do it for me. I just find it to be messy from the opening all the way to the dry down. This was a definite scrubber. I tried to wear this a couple times just to see how it would go on my skin, see if anything changed, and nothing changed. It was just an awful fragrance. I really regret getting this one. I don't like this fragrance whatsoever, and it is what it is. So for me, this was a big loss when it comes to the blind buys. That's Lattafa's Nausea Tribute. All right, so next up in the winners column for my blind buy fragrances, we got Rochas Loam. Now you pick this up for $32, $34 at various discounters, and I'm not a huge blue fragrance guy. I've said this in a couple other videos talking about this fragrance, but this is just a nice, unique twist and change of pace from your typical blue fragrances. Still very much is a blue fragrance, but it's just got a little bit of a different character to it that I really enjoy this one. It has this nice pineapple, blood orange style of opening to it. A little bit of fresh spicy cardamom mixed in there, so it has a little bit of a warmth, a little bit of a tart citrus to it, that sweetness from the pineapple, but then it moves into the mid where it gets this nice green aromatic touch. It's got some juniper, it's got some geranium in there, a little bit of a fresh spicy mint accord that works its way through. Really nice green aromatics that come through, just the right level of sweetness balancing off against those citruses, and it just absolutely works. It's not your typical fresh out the shower jelly blue style of fragrance, but it still has that clean aromatic, just bright blue style of fragrance. I really enjoy this one. Just an absolutely gem of a fragrance, and I'm so glad I picked this one up. And again, it was an absolute blind buy, and I was pleasantly surprised with this one. Performance on this is pretty good. I get about 6 hours of longevity, and it does push out fairly good for the first hour and a half, 2 hours before it does settle back in. If you're into blue fragrances, you're gonna like this one. If you're a little bit not sure about blue fragrances, this might pleasantly surprise you. That's Rochas Loam. All right, so moving over to the losers column, we got one from Juicy Couture, and it's Juicy Couture's Dirty English. Now, I don't even know what to say about this one. This one, I will admit, I don't mind the opening on this one. I gotta spray some in the air. I'm gonna regret this. Yeah, the opening is not too bad. It has like a nice mandarin orange, a cypress. It has a bit of a warm spiciness to it. It's okay, but it just quickly, this one turns sour for me. It has this like sour herbaceousness to it. It has this funky style of oud, some woods that worked in there, and they just don't seem to line up properly. A very dated style of fragrance. This just transports me back to the 1990s. It's like someone's older, awkward brother when I was growing up, like heading out to a Soundgarden concert thinking he was going to impress the ladies when he really wasn't going to do it. That's kind of what this reminds me of. It has like a bit of an old medicinal Band-Aid sort of smell to it for me. It's dated. The notes just don't match together. The sourness I can't get past on this one. And again, I do like kind of that fresh, spicy, sort of woody citrus style of opening. It has a brief moment where I'm just like, oh, this ain't so bad. And then it is. And I just don't care for this fragrance. I know a lot of people think this is a classic from back in the day, and I don't know why, to be quite honest. And the performance on this is absolute crap too. This is like a 2-3 hour performer off of my skin. So overall, this was a big regret. Luckily, I only paid about maybe 20, 25 bucks from a rack store for this one. So wasn't a huge loss, but for me, it just doesn't work. That's Juicy Couture's Dirty English. All right, next up, we're gonna talk about a couple Paris Corner fragrances that I absolutely can't stand and one that I absolutely love. And the one I love is Paris Corner's Killer Oud Jubilant. Now this fragrance is a clone of Amouage Jubilation XXV, and let me tell you, this is just a beautiful, sophisticated, elegant, masculine style of fragrance. I just can't get enough of this one. Just a beautiful, rich medley of spices that come through in the opening, a little wisp of some like churchy frankincense that works its way through, little touches of sweetness from some florals, a little bit of warm honey, some blackberry that's in there, light peppery cedarwood that's in there as well, and little hints of some green notes that work its way through. Just a really beautiful blend of all sorts of different centichords that just kind of sing and dance together. Absolutely perfect. As it gets to the dry down, this becomes a little bit more of that spicy woods, but that sweetness that's there, this sweet resinous sweetness, this honey that comes through, that blackberry, a little bit of floral sweetness, just stays around enough just to kind of round out those edges so it doesn't become like an overly spicy or an overly woody style of fragrance. Just a beautiful balance of those centichords, like an old opulent Victorian house, a wooden house, spice rack in the kitchen, a blackberry honey pie sitting on the windowsill cooling, and you get little whiffs of a cool breeze coming through from like the flowers coming in through the window, little hints of some grassy greenness, and a little wisp of that churchy incense. Just an absolutely beautiful fragrance. Absolutely love this one. Performance on this is about average. I get about 6 hours, and it does project fairly good for an hour and a half, 2 hours before it does settle back in. Beautiful fragrance. One of my favorite from the Killer Oud line and Paris Corner in general. Worth checking out. That's Paris Corner's Killer Oud Jubilant. All right, so heading over to the loser column for Paris Corner, and it's from the Killer Oud line, and it's Paris Corner's Killer Oud Overdose. Now, this apparently is a clone of Amouage Overture, I believe, and this one just does not work for me. I tried to like this one. The note breakdown seemed very interesting. It seemed like something I might enjoy, but it just didn't come together for me. There's a cognac, cumin, grapefruit style of mishmash in the opening that just comes across boozy with some spice and this sourness that comes through, and they don't play together very well. The sourness is almost overwhelming. It has some sweet notes that come through, some green notes that come through in the mid, and a little bit of like animalic, smoky style of leather from that base. And the three centichords trying to battle it out just don't work. There's just like too much trying to happen with this fragrance all at once, and none of it ever seems to kind of blend together nice or just gel and make an appealing fragrance for me, at least. I really just don't enjoy the centichord. The sour notes battling against some of the sweet notes in here, that animalic leather playing off the boozy spiciness just doesn't seem to fit together. The green notes just don't come across all that well. Just has the sweetness of cough syrup, and it just has the animalic smoky leatherness to this that it just doesn't work. It's just a overall very off-putting fragrance for me. Did not enjoy this one. I was really hoping this one. I didn't think it would be a bad blind buy based off the note breakdown, but turns out it actually was. And it is what it is. Can't win them all. But Paris Corner's Killer Oud Overdose. All right, so last up for the winners of my blind buy fragrances, and that is a Bulgarian Man's Wood Neroli. Now you can pick this one up for about $60, $65 at discounters. I actually picked this up in the parking lot of a movie theater from a Facebook Marketplace purchase, and I think I paid like 30 or 35 bucks. So check out Facebook Marketplace. There's some people who don't know what they're doing, and they sell you cheap fragrances. I had never smelled this one before, and I just wanted to kind of complete the Bulgarian Man line just because I have most of them by now. And let me tell you, this might be one of my favorites from the Bulgarian Man line. If you like Neroli, you are gonna absolutely love this one. Neroli, bergamot, orange blossom, right out the gate. You get that clean, fresh, invigorating Neroli. You get a little bit of that tart, citrusy style of bergamot, and the orange blossom that works through, kind of accentuating both of those notes, adding a little bit of a kind of a floral, soft floral touch to it, but it's just an absolutely energizing style of Neroli opening to this one. Very clean, very fresh. As this kind of opens up a little bit more, you get this amber and this musk that comes through. It sits behind that Neroli, but it kind of warms things up a little bit, adds a little bit of additional sweetness to this, just kind of adds a little bit of a texture to this, and then these woods start to come through. So it's a nice, deep, rich wood that comes through with this, but it's not an overpoweringly woody style of fragrance. The Neroli with those woods balances off really nice, and then again, you get that amber and that musk that kind of tucks in behind all that. Adds a little bit of texture, a little bit of warmth, and a little bit of the additional sweetness to it, but through and through, this is a very, very nice, as the name would suggest, neroli wood style of fragrance. Absolutely love this one. Like I said, if you like neroli, you are going to enjoy this fragrance, and if you don't like neroli, then don't buy this fragrance because you won't. Absolutely love this one. Performance on this pretty good. I get about 6-7 hours of longevity, and it's moderate production for the first 2 hours. But for me, this is one of my favorite summer fragrances. Absolute compliment monster. Anytime I wear this, I have someone complimenting me on this one, and it's just a beautiful fragrance worth checking out. That's Bulgarian's Wood Neroli. All right, so last up in my blind buy regrets is Nabil's Mastermind Rouge. Now this one is a very green, herbal, sweet, woody, floral style of fragrance that on its surface seems like it should be quite a lovely fragrance, but none of the scent accords seem to work together very well. It has that sweet, green, herbal sort of feel to it, but it comes across a very green medicinal, like a cough drop sort of vibe going on to it. The woods in here are nice, but they're not all that noticeable, and they don't really gel up with the other scent accords. And then the florals that come through, there's some jasmine and some ylang-ylang. They're okay, but I find the ylang-ylang to come through very synthetic, and it has this really rubbery texture, this really rubbery vibe that goes on to it. That's a little bit off-putting. I will say there's parts of this that I kind of enjoy. There's parts where that kind of sweet green medicinal vibe that goes on to it is a little bit enjoyable, but I find just that rubbery ylang-ylang that comes through and the confusion between all the scent accords not matching together, it's just, it doesn't seem to go in any one direction. A little bit of an identity crisis at times with this one, and I don't enjoy it. Not an entirely unpleasant fragrance, it just does not work for me. If this was like a cough drop flavor, if I had a sore throat and I was taking a cough drop, this would actually be fairly good, but it's just not something I want to wear as a fragrance, and that's just my personal opinion on this one. So Nabil, it was my first time trying out this line, and unfortunately this was a miss for me and one of my blind buy regrets. That's Nabil's Mastermind Rouge. All right, so there you have it. That's 10 blind buy fragrances of mine. 5 that I found were absolute winners and 5 that I think were absolute losers. But like I said at the very beginning, just because I think these ones are winners doesn't mean they're necessarily blind buy safe, and the ones that are losers, they're not necessarily bad fragrances. A couple of them are. A couple of them are. Not all of them though. I know some people like these fragrances, and it's not a knock on you guys. I don't like these fragrances. But I do want to hear from you guys. What are 2 of your blind buy fragrances, 1 winner, 1 loser that you've had in your experience? Comment down below. I love hearing from you guys. I love hearing your different experiences, hidden gems, recommendations, input. Appreciate you. And because this was a tag video, I have to tag somebody now to do 10 blind buy fragrances, 5 winners, 5 losers. So I'm gonna tag my boy, My 2 Cents. I wanna hear about your blind buy fragrances, buddy. So I'll leave his link down in the description. Go check out his channel, go subscribe, go like his videos. Tell him Post Cologne sent you. So I wanna see him, buddy. My 2 cents. I wanna see your blind buy fragrances. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.